Men in Highland New Guinea say they are shrinking. The claim was hard for me to interpret during my research because I myself was quite frail, frequently sick, skinny, and certainly not very good at living in the bush. Here were strapping young men telling me that their bones had become like chicken bones, brittle and frail, their skin ashy and dull, and so on. This discourse resonated with a broader claim that PNG was not developing and in fact going backwards. In Papua New Guinea, when people talk about bodies or observe their health or sickness, they are also talking about social relationships. This is because the strength of or life of any body is held to exhibit a principle of life force or vitality that is reproduced through the proper activation of social relationships. Here, a theatrical performance represents ancestral strength. These actors display how previous generations dragged logs out of the mountains to build bridges during the colonial era. These ancestors were held to be incredibly strong with heat, with vital heat, so that when rain fell on their bodies, it literally turned to steam. Much of the development that took place during the colonial era now lies in ruins. Present generations express admiration for the colonial generation who seized the opportunities brought by the opening up of the highlands to the outside world. Papua New Guinea achieved independence in 1975. Highland New Guinea was opened up to exploration in the 1930s. The Asaro Valley, where I did research, came under colonial control after World War II. The local language is called Dano, and the first baptisms were in the 1950s. In our research, anthropologists do everything everybody else is doing, such as gardening, visiting relatives, going to church, getting tattoos, that's my arm, or butchering pigs, and then we write about it afterwards. We become members of families, and we must comply with kinship obligations. The Asaro Valley rises from about 2,000 meters. People grow all their own food in impressive mountainside gardens. The current staple crop is sweet potato. In the eastern highlands, people mostly live in grass houses in nucleated villages. Descent is traced through men, and when married, women go to live in the place where their husbands were born. Their children will grow the clan of their husband, not their own clan. This means there are two types of relation that structure social life. The patrilineal descent relations comprising clans, and the affinal or in-law relations that cross-cut clans. Particular parts of the human body, such as bone or blood, symbolize or iconize these relations. For example, the growth of hair is surrounded by taboos and rules. If I cut my hair, I owe a gift to my patrilineal co-clan members because I am cutting their body. If my flesh is injured and blood flows, I owe a gift to my mother's people because I've injured their body. In Melanesian societies, leadership is achieved rather than ascriptive. Rather than inherited titles like chiefs, leadership positions are open and flexible. Anyone with enough panache and social skill is theoretically capable of becoming a big man, like Yaga, who is the big man of Pekosa village. Big men coordinate ceremonial exchanges that honor and enact the circulation of fertility that the movement of women in marriage accomplishes. Bride wealth, child wealth, and mortuary exchanges reveal the social sources of persons by compensating those who contributed to their birth and growth. Ceremonial exchanges and linked male initiations were important then in reproducing clans by symbolically separating a patrilineally related group of brothers from their biological origins in the native clans of their mothers. You might say that rather than patrilineal, they were patri-emergent. So, why are the men shrinking? Ceremonial exchanges were traditionally layered with symbolism connected to traditional religion. Symbols and rites connected to male vitality and fortitude were principally linked to the strength of clan relationships, as guided by ancestral ghosts. One such icon was a sacred stone known as Yabarisi. These stones were connected through special rites to the fertility of pig herds. Each clan had its own sacred stones, which belonged to a class of sacred objects called omoso. Sacred stones and other symbols in the traditional religions, such as sacred flutes, were specifically targeted by Lutheran missionaries in the 1950s for public destruction. Missionaries wanted to shift people's attachments from their clan to newly established churches. Papua New Guineans today have enthusiastically embraced Christian teaching. However, the cultural logic and social values of the traditional religion continue to shape how people understand themselves. Today, then, symbols of clan and male strength are repudiated. They are not forgotten, but they continue to haunt contemporary social life. These photos document the quest of villagers to uncover the illicit usage of a sacred stone by a man to increase his a pig herd. Traditional symbols of clan strength have been re-signified. They have become signs of a savage past that people wish to leave behind. My interpretation of contemporary beliefs about shrinking male bodies is indebted to Abuno Vidikare, one of my informants, who first suggested to me that the main problem facing Papua New Guinea today is the inability to create and mobilize the strength of tribal collectivities in tandem with the aims of social development.